What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today, I wanted to give Shadow Driftbloom a try in the Open Great League. This Pokemon in previous seasons has been very powerful, but in this current season, I haven't seen it too often, and I wanted to see what it could do against the current meta. There's a lot of ground types, a lot of fighters, a lot of Pokemon that Driftbloom can wall, so let's get into the battles and see what this team can do. Alright, first game of the day, we have our Tinkaton as our lead up against a Wigglytuff, one of the best leads we could see here. Let's see what our opponent's going to do. They instantly swap out to a Shadow Kanto Marowak, a Pokemon that we do have our Driftbloom ready to answer. This is potentially a Rock Slide. I don't want to end up letting this go and put ourselves in a Mud Slap down situation. We're going to shield a Bone Club bait, it looks like, but that's still fine. At this point, Icy Wind will still knock them out, and keeping Switch Advantage is going to be key to winning this game. Icy Wind will do a lot of damage against this Pokemon. Actually, it will end up getting a shield, but honestly, at this point, even if they land the Rock Slide at -1, I think we can survive, and I think we can Astonish down, getting a full farm down here, potentially throwing a Charge Attack against that Wigglytuff when it comes back in. We do have a Shadow Ball ready to go, but obviously Wigglytuff does very much resist that Ghost-type damage, so instead throwing the Icy Wind, getting a bit of chip as well as a debuff into this Pokemon. They can charm us all the way down all they want, but at this point, Tinkaton is going to align back into them and roll out Dunsparce in the backline against Blastoise. Not going to be able to win the game. GG to our opponent. Next matchup is a Tinkaton into a Swalot. Actually, a very interesting matchup here. Obviously, we have resisted Fast Food Pressure, whereas they are doing super effective Fast Food Pressure, but our charge moves are the exact opposite. Bulldoze is super effective against the Poison typing, whereas both Sludge and Ice Beam do nearly nothing against Tinkaton. We also get an early defense drop here, so that's very nice to see our opponent throwing a charge move. What is it going to be? They do opt for Sludge, which I do believe is the more efficient play here. In comes our next Bulldoze, and after that first debuff, I'm not sure this will knock out, but it will put them into a range where the third Bulldoze will be enough to KO this Pokemon. Bulldoze comes through, our opponent does let it go once again, and I will follow suit, no-shield this move, and see what they want to do. And important thing to note there is we win this CMP, so because of that, I'm going to be able to not even take the next charge move. I still have quite a bit of HP on our Tinkaton. Bulldoze should be able to come through, knock out the Swalot, or get their first shield. They do let it go. In comes a Jumpluff, and while you might think it's a bad play to swap in a Water type into a Grass type, I know for the most part, Rollout is going to do quite a bit of damage into them, and Skull Bash as well can boost our defense stat. We should be in a decent spot, depending on what their backline is going to look like. Our opponent is staying in here, so either that means Blastoise has play in the backline, or maybe they do just want to get shields from us right now. They are running the non-Shadow Jumpluff, and they have shown Energy Ball, so that means they will be able to do quite a bit of damage with us here, and potentially take our charges just a little bit better. Energy Ball is going to be thrown into us. It does do quite a bit of damage, or it would have if I did end up letting that go, but I know I can get to another Skull Bash before they are able to throw another Energy Ball, so might as well be at +2 defense before they can even land a single charge move against us. In comes the charge move there. It does a massive amount of damage. They're in rollout down range. They do reach an Energy Ball, though, before we can do it. Our opponent does go for it, and we are able to pretty easily survive. In comes a Medicham as their final Pokemon, and while you might expect this to be a very good matchup, it is still just a little bit awkward. I know Medicham does have access to Cycle Cut as well as Ice Punch, and we can see that will two-shot us here. I will be able to outpace before the second Ice Punch is reached, but because they can get a farm down, and because our Tinkaton might be in Dynamic Punch range, this game could get a little bit dicey. In comes the Astonish damage, but our opponent overfarming maybe just a bit too much here, making it so my Astonishes are able to put them into a very low HP range. I am going to be able to either Fairy Wind down or potentially Roll Out down, depending on what our opponent does. I feel like the play here is come in Blastoise, force them to throw energy against us. They are debuffed, they have to go for a Dynamic Punch, and at this point, they're not going to be able to get another move before I can Fairy Wind down, and potentially even knock out a Jumpluff with a Bulldoze. Might be the first time this has ever happened here. Bulldoze normally does very little damage to a Jumpluff, but it is just enough to knock them out. We can Fairy Wind down the Medicham and take the win in that match. All right, next game, Tinkaton up against a Shadow Swampert. Not a great lead matchup here. Even our Blastoise doesn't necessarily want to be in this matchup, but it's a better matchup for a Blastoise than it is our Tinkaton, so we're going to swap this in and hope that they're going to swap out at some point here. In comes a charge move, likely going to be a Sludge. It could be a Hydro Cannon as well, but I think Sludge is going to be the more common move that you see here. Thrown into a Blastoise. In comes, I believe that was a Fairy Wind user. What was that going to be? Was that a Blastoise? No, actually a Tinkaton rather. And so this Pokemon is going to be able to easily survive 2 Hydro Cannons here. Our rollout's not doing too much fast food pressure, but that's still fine. At this point, Blastoise has done its job, and potentially it set us up for a nice little farm down here. Our opponent does go for a charge move. I don't think a Bulldoze is quite enough to knock out. A Play Rough here probably going to be thrown, and it is definitely going to knock out our Blastoise. At this point, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to commit to a full Fairy Wind down. I know while they might get to do Bulldozes here, Bulldoze is not a great move, and if I can come out of this with a lot of energy, Swampert doesn't want to take a Play Rough, we can potentially get shields with our Tinkaton in a matchup that generally is not considered too good for us. In comes another Bulldoze, luckily no defense drop on that first move. In comes the second one. We do survive it, but they do get the defense drop here. We get a full farm down. In comes likely the Swampert here. Instantly throw that Play Rough and see what they're going to do. Yeah, Shadow Swampert comes back in. At this point, they might be able to survive if they no shield. Let's see what they want to do with their Swampert. They do shield that move up, meaning now I do have a shield advantage for our Shadow Driftblim. I feel like at this point, I don't want to take a Shadow into Shadow Hydro Cannon. I'm going to shield this, try to farm them down, or reach an Icy Wind before the next charge move, and their final Pokemon is revealed as a Shadow Driftblim of their own. We have Astonish. We have the Icy Wind that we can throw very early on in this matchup, which I think is going to be the critical factor to winning this game. I will be able to do a lot more Astonish damage. In fact, I got a shield as well as Simul KO'd that Drifblim thanks to getting that move so early, and now I can reach another player off. We have a shield loaded, so even if they had energy, we'd be able to reach this player off, knock out the Swampert, and Tinkaton able to close out that matchup there. GG to our opponent. All right, next game here, we're going to see the Gastrodon in the lead up against our Tinkaton. Not a great lead matchup. Also not great for our Blastoise to see, but they do swap out into a Wigglytuff, and this is not the worst case scenario to be in. I know Wigglytuff does have a lot of fast food pressure, and the longer this goes, the better it is for them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for the Skull Bash, boost my defense stat, and make it so I can survive a charge move in the Zero Shield matchup. Going to go for a Hydro Cannon now instantly. Our opponent does throw a charge move here. It could be an Icy Wind if they want to debuff us, but I feel like a Swift is the more likely play, which is exactly what we end up seeing. Hydro Cannon coming through this will get a knockout or a shield from this Wigglytuff. I would have loved to see them let that go, because Drifblim into Gastrodon is just such a nice matchup to be in, but our opponent obviously does want Switch. They're a Wigglytuff Gastro user. That's not too surprising to me. In comes the full Fairy Wind down from our Tinkaton. We can get an energy lead here, but the problem is I don't know what's in the backline. It might be another RPS Pokemon. I'm just hoping that we're setting our Shadow Drifblim up for success, baiting out the Wigglytuff. In comes the Gastro once again. Their final Pokemon revealed as a Shadow Pidgeot. This could potentially be winnable depending on the moveset here. I know Air Cutter is almost always a moveset that you see on this Pokemon, but it's still a toss-up. Is it on Brave Bird or is it on Feather Dance? If it's Brave Bird, we win this game instantly. If it's Feather Dance, I think they can survive an Icy Wind, and this game is going to be a lot closer than I'd like it to be. Feather Dance is going to be thrown. That is exactly what we did not want to see. Now Icy Wind is not going to be enough damage to knock out. I think this Pidgeot is going to be able to survive this, either gust us down here or throw a charge move to knock us out. This is not looking ideal for our Shadow Drifblim. Fortunately for us, they do throw energy for no apparent reason here. I can let this go. I can try to use our energy lead on our Tinkaton to maybe win this game, but I know this Gastro as well has a ton of energy. I'm not quite sure we have enough HP and energy in the tank to win this game. Layer off being thrown, it does do a sizable amount of damage to this Gastrodon, but I do have to call a move right now. I'm going to no-shield this Body Slam, and thankfully for us, they do end up throwing that move there. They're at another attack already. I have to shield something up this game, and unfortunately, while I do think I am going to be able to knock out this Gastrodon, I'm not so sure I can knock out the Pidgeot. If they're 2 gusts away from the Air Cutter, they are going to be able to win this game, but if they're on their 3 cycle right now, then I can win this one. Fairy Winds are doing a lot of damage, but no, they are able to reach it at the last second here. Unfortunately, just barely not able to close out this game here. Tinkaton gets knocked out, our opponent able to win that one. All right, next matchup is going to be Tinkaton and the lead up against a Shadow Jumpluff, a fantastically matchup for us here. And also, it's pretty good because I have super effective rollout damage. I have Icy Wind in the backline. So honestly, our full team is pretty good against this Pokemon. I'm going to try to catch a Sparkling Aria. It doesn't quite work out for us. But the thing is, once again, I don't necessarily need Switch advantage. I'm fine just sacrificing Blastoise at this point, getting shields from this, or potentially if they do let this go, then I will be able to keep Switch advantage and wall off all the energy from that Shadow Jumpluff. In comes a charge move. We did see the first move was a Sparkling Aria. The second one is going to follow suit. So likely that means they are on Ice Beam as their secondary attack, which means Blastoise is going to wall all of this energy. Skull Bash going to boost up our defense stat here. Our opponent does end up letting that move go. And at this point, I feel like just letting this Blastoise go down. While I could shield this up, I know Jumpluff could absorb our energy pretty well and get a Fairy Wind down. No reason to let them have that. Instead, get an energy lead of our own on our Shadow Drifblim. Our opponent comes back in Shadow Jumpluff. And at this point, I'm going to try our best to go for Astonish and Icy Wind damage. Make sure this thing can't land a Shadow Acrobatics into us, because while this is a good matchup, it's not going to be a matchup where I'm going to instantly win. If they do land a Shadow into Shadow Acrobatics, it would still do a lot of damage despite the 1-stage debuff that they already have. We do probably shield up the move. Luckily, Acrobatics not going to be able to one-shot us because of that Protect Shield. Icy Wind going to be thrown. Do they double shield on this move? Our opponent does let it go, meaning now we can likely permanently debuff the final Pokemon. Unfortunately for them, they were actually a little bit core broken by our Shadow Drifblim. There is no reason for me not to shield this move. I have a player loaded on my Tinkaton. As long as I can take the final shield with an Icy Wind, this game will be ours. In comes the Icy Wind here against this Tinkaton, or rather against this Shadow Swampert. Our Tinkaton can come in after this if they do shield that move, but they end up letting it go. Shadow Drifblim putting in a ton of work in that game. All right, next matchup, Tinkaton into a Galarian Weezing. Honestly, not my favorite lead matchup here. We know it could have access to Overheat, and because that's always a possibility, I have to keep that in mind. Maybe I have to shield, but if they're on Brutal Swing and Sludge, it's like, man, all those charge moves do nothing. It would be such a waste of a shield depending on what they end up throwing here. In comes a charge move here in just a second. We're going to make a catch on our Blastoise, meaning now if this is an overheat, it's going to be a lot of wasted energy. If it's going to be a sludge, then at the very least, we're not going to have to shield a bait. And since we did catch the full-on overheat here, I'm very happy with that. We also end up baiting out a Pangoro, a Pokemon, which could put in a lot of work against our team if I didn't end up baiting it out here. Hydro Cannon coming through and does a massive amount of damage to Pangoro. At this point, I do have another Hydro Cannon, but our opponent does throw a Charge Attack at the last second. I think a Night Slash we would survive. They have to close combat. They do wisely go for that move here. I come in instantly with Tinkaton. They instantly throw the Charge move. Maybe I should have come in with our Drifloon instead to catch a close combat, but they might not have instantly thrown if I came in with that. So no real guarantee there, but I still fairy wind down. Our opponent's still thinking about who to come in with. We have a lot of energy left over on our Tinkaton here. We have a Bulldoze ready to go. This is going to do quite a bit of damage, but it's not going to knock out against this Weezing. We're able to land the move and get a defense drop here, but they throw energy against us. I know this could be an overheat. There's no way I would ever let this move go. I need to keep some HP somewhere, use a shield at some point in this game. But unfortunately for us, it's going to be a Shadow Feraligatr in the back. And while we do have a lot of play to this Pokemon with our faster pressure on Shadow Drifloon, I think in the one shield matchup here, they might have just enough HP to withstand our faster pressure and potentially reach the back-to-back Hydro Cannon. Looks like they're already at their second move, and there's no way our Tinkaton can knock this out in 5 Fairy Winds. It's going to be close, but it looks like at this point, this Feraligatr is just a little bit too healthy, and we're going to end up getting taken down here, unfortunately, by this Pokemon. Weezing in the backline also had a bit of HP on it. I'm not sure I could have Fairy Winded that down, but a very close game nonetheless. GG to our opponent. Next matchup is a Tinkaton up against a non-Shadow Swampert, a very interesting lead Pokemon, but also something I really don't want to see with our Steel-type Pokemon, so I'm going to swap out into our Blastoise and see what our opponent wants to do. They're staying in for just a second, likely throwing a Sludge against us, and then they're going to swap out into a better matchup for themselves. Actually, no, they're going to stay in. Let us go for a Hydro Cannon into this Pokemon, which honestly I am pretty fine with as well, knowing that if I can chip this down just a little bit more, it's going to be in a range where our Tinkaton can have a lot of play into it. A Malamar comes in to try to respond to our Blastoise, and while this is a matchup where Blastoise is going to have a lot of play, after that chip damage they got into us here, it's not all that comfortable, and I don't know if we can survive this charge move. Instead of letting this go, I'm going to shield this up. I also noticed that my Switch Clock is back up. I can swap into our Tinkaton, try to go for a farm down potentially against this Pokemon, or, you know, if they let us, I can also just go for a Bulldoze. They had almost back-to-back superpowers, so either they have to shield against a very bad matchup for them, or they have to let nearly 100 energy go. They let all the energy go down, which is fantastic for us to see. They go for a charge move here, and at this point, Tinkaton should be able to survive a move and reach a couple charge attacks against this Swampert. They do end up going for a Hydro Cannon. I go for the Play Rough. I'm hoping right now that they expect the Bulldoze bait and they try to no-shield this move. Play Rough ends up, unfortunately for us, getting a shield. This is not looking great. They get a full farm down with this Swampert. They have 100 energy. They go for good timing, though. That means they end up getting completely sniped down with all of that energy. A Dugong in the backline, not what I want to see, but a Pokemon that potentially, with our energy lead, we might be able to have some play into. We also have our Blastoise in the backline that could get a Skull Bash into this Pokemon, and we resist the Ice-type damage, so Blastoise could put in work, or maybe Drifloon might just get to a second Shadow Ball. Our opponent realizes that. They top left right when I reach it. GG to our opponent. Drifloon just a little bit too good. Next game here, a Superior in the lead. We resist all the damage this Pokemon has. They say swap a Shadow Lapras. And once again, with that Grass-type lead, I have 2 Pokemon that are good into it, so I'm not all that concerned about keeping switch advantage in this game. Our opponent going for a charge move. I'm hoping that they're not on Skull Bash. Shadow Lapras, I guess, does end up running it here. That's not great for us. That's a lot of damage that our Blastoise just ended up taking. I'm going to go for one of my own. Our opponent could shield this though and farm down. If they do that, this matchup could be just a little bit uncomfortable for us right now. In comes, we don't even get the Hydro Cannon off. Honestly, that's pretty uncomfortable for us because they are able to now go for a Sparkling Aria and also be able to survive our Play Rough. If I got that extra chip damage off, I think this Play Rough would be enough to knock out, meaning that our Tinkaton would not end up taking a second Sparkling Aria in this game. With that said, I'm going to invest fully in our Shadow Drifloon right now. Yeah, that extra Hydro Cannon damage would have been so nice, but at this point, just let this go down. Astonish down the Shadow Lapras. They have a more Pekko in the back line. This is game over. Well, there is going to be a Superior in the back that my Drifloon has a great matchup into, where Pekko can just spam out debuffs, and I don't one-shot a Superior anyway. So after a couple Psychic Fangs and these Thunder Shocks, I'm not going to be able to win this game. GG there to our opponent. Very well played, and showing that Shadow Drifloon does have quite a few Pokemon that it still might not want to see. All right, next matchup is a Pokemon Tinkaton loves to see. It's going to be a very interesting lead of that low kicks, and they say swap a Diggersby, which we do have a Water-type Pokemon to answer. While this is a good matchup for Blastoise, we do have to keep in mind that Scorching Sands is a very powerful move. It can two-shot us over time with a Quick Attack, Fast Move Pressure, and while Hydro Cannon does a lot of damage, if we did get debuff on that first move, a two-shot is unlikely. That said, we don't get debuffed on that first move, which means our two-shot is still in play here. Hydro Cannon going to be spammed out so quickly, able to outpace before the second charge move and draw shield from the Diggersby. Our opponent will get a shield from us in return. At this point, though, we are so spammy, Blastoise can always keep switch advantage in this game. And once again, we do dodge a debuff. They swap back into their low kicks here, probably trying to catch a charge move from our Blastoise, but honestly, this is fine by me. I know at this point, we wall every single move this Pokemon can have. I can overfarm basically to 100 energy here, and if I can throw a charge move, knock them out before they can get a second charge attack off, this low kicks is going to be entirely wasted, and this Pokemon is going to be out of the way, so our Shadow Drifloon does not have to deal with it. Our opponent thinking about who to come in with here. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Diggersby come back in, but they actually reveal their third Pokemon. It's a Toxapex, a poison type Pokemon into our fairy, but also we're a steel type, right? So these poison jabs not doing too much damage. We have Bulldoze. We get a defense drop pretty early on in this matchup too. So this game is looking pretty good for us. Honestly, even with that defense drop there, I think we probably win this game. Shadow Drifblim is a very good answer into this Toxapex. Our Blastoise is still very healthy. It can go for Hydro Cannons against that Diggersby in the back line. So at this point, any chip damage that we can get is nice, but it is not at all necessary. Our Tinkaton just bulky enough here to get to yet another Bulldoze to this Toxapex. Do they want to shield this at this point? They kind of have to shield something. They don't opt to, though. In comes Drifblim. We try to go for an Astonish down, but they swap out, meaning I can go for the combo play with our Blastoise, go for this Hydro Cannon. Instantly, our opponent goes for a shield, and now let's see what they want to do. I know if they Scorching Sands us, they can knock us out, but our Drifloon can close us out if our Blastoise goes down. If they Fire Punch, they don't even knock us out here. I can go for the Hydro Cannon. It's looking like this game is going to be a win for us right now. Blastoise gets the knockout against the Diggersby, and while they can knock out our Blastoise here, we can go for a full Astonish down against this Toxapex. They throw a charge move. They're really trying their best right now, but the thing is, I have so much HP. I have a shield left over. There's nothing this Toxapex can do, even if they had 100 energy, able to win that game there. GG to our opponent. Next matchup here, we're going to see another Superior in the lead. We see this matchup, and we know it's a very good one for us. We don't even need Switch here, as long as Blastoise doesn't have to find that matchup. And good thing for us, they safe swap a Talonflame. Blastoise can come in, respond to it, and hopefully keep Switch for us in this game. Braver, though, comes to it, does a lot of damage, and these rollouts are adding up, but not quite enough to farm them all the way down, meaning now I have to go for a Hydro Cannon. If they want to shield this for Switch, they can, but the thing is, I don't necessarily need Switch against that Superior, so we're still going to be in a pretty good spot. Our opponent is going to overfarm by one more charge move here. I would expect a Brave Bird to come through right now. Likely you don't see Flame Charge and Brave Bird on the same moveset. I say, as we get Flame Charge, they're not even running Fly. That is kind of crazy to me. Our opponent is thinking about who to bring in. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Superior come back in with how low HP I am, which is exactly what our opponent ends up doing. I don't know what's going to be in the backline. I know that Talonflame plus the Mud Slappers are a very common duo. If that is the case, Drifloon probably has a lot of play, but if it's something else in the backline that actually counters our Shadow Drifloon, this game could be a little bit more uncomfortable. That first charge move there does chip us down a lot more than I'd like to, saying that we do resist the damage on the fast move, and Aerial Ace is not a great charge move, but the thing is, Drifblim is already almost at back-to-back charges here. I can go for a charge attack to knock them out here. If they shield this move up, I have a second one ready to go. If they no shield, then I have a charge move ready for the backline. They come in with a Shadow type Flosion. I feel like at this point, my lose condition is going to be baiting. I full send the Shadow Ball. We have a lot of energy on Tinkaton. They try to call the bait. Unfortunately for them, I full send. GG to our opponent. Next matchup is a Tinkaton into a Malamar. Fantastic lead for us here. We know Superpower is neutral into us, but it's not going to be a move that is going to be able to do too much damage, especially with the Psywave damage being resisted. They say swap a Tinkaton. We don't have a hard response to this, unfortunately, but what we do have is Bulldoze. We can go for that. No debuff, which is a little bit tragic to see. If we did get a debuff there, I think we would have been able to knock them out with a Hydro Cannon plus the rollout damage, but because of no debuff, we're going to have to instead invest shields into our Blastoise if we do want to keep Switch in this game. I think I do need Switch advantage, though, right now, because that Malamar could be a little bit tricky for our Shadow Drifloon to deal with, and I know Tinkaton, if it is in that matchup, is going to have a lot of play. In comes the next charge move here from our opponent, likely another Play Rough going to be thrown. Blastoise can easily survive this move, and I think we're still outside of range where the Fairy Winds plus a Bulldoze could knock us out. I'm already at yet another Hydro Cannon. If they opt to shield this move, then at the very least, I can outpace them to the next one. But no, they do opt to let that go. In comes Malamar, and at this point, I can go for a Hydro Cannon, try our very best here to either get to another Hydro Cannon or force them to throw energy against their Blastoise before we can. If I can get another move, we're going to be in a very good spot. We can just barely. Blastoise hangs on. Hydro Cannon going to knock out, but more likely draw a shield from this Pokemon. Hydro Cannon is going to get that shield from Malamar. They still have one left, but they have a lot of energy here that our Tinkaton is going to have to absorb. And comes a charge move, likely a Superpower, and then they're going to swap out right after this, which is exactly what they end up doing. And then their final Pokemon is revealed as a Golisopod. Not what we want to see, saying this Pokemon is going to have a lot of faster pressure into us, and Aqua Jet might not knock us out, but it will put us very low. I go for the play rough at this point, knowing that if I can land this move, maybe I can astonish this thing all the way down. Our opponent lets it go. In comes our Shadow Drifloon here. Astonish damage doing so much. We're able to astonish down the Golisopod. In comes a Malamar. At this point, if they can reach 2 charge attacks here, they can win this game. But if they don't, then we should be in a spot where we can go for a full fast move farm down, and Drifloon might be able to close out this game. Sidewave not doing enough damage. They're able to pull that one out just barely. Next matchup is a Tinkaton into a Pangoro, one of the best spots we can see this Pokemon. Our Fairy-type damage does a massive amount, but the problem is they say swap a Shadow Galarian Weezing, a Pokemon I don't have a hard answer to. In comes a Bulldoze. I would expect them to be on Overheat, saying they swap this in to our Fairy and Steel-type Pokemon, but if they are on Sludge and Brutal Swing, this is kind of awkward that they are going to be able to make a swap out of a matchup that would have been good for us. They do go for a Sludge against our Blastoise, which does make sense here. At this point, another Sludge has already been reached. I have to shield up this move, but there it is. They are on Brutal Swing. We should have stayed in with Tinkaton, honestly. At this point, they are in a pretty good spot, and I don't know exactly how you want to play out this game. Don't have a lot of faster pressure here with our rollouts, which means they are going to be able to outpace us, especially saying they are on Brutal Swing, and because of that, this is not looking good for our Blastoise. We do end up taking the next charge move. We don't even reach the next Hydro Cannon, meaning now we're in such a bad spot. But we know the moveset here. I know that I wall all of the energy. Might as well go for a full Fairy Wind farm down. Try to use our energy in the backline if we can, but if there's a Pokemon that walls our Tinkaton, that would be basically game over, saying there's a Pangoro in the backline for Shadow Drifloon. Yeah, there's a Talonflame, unfortunately, one of the worst things that our Tinkaton could see. GG there to our opponent. Good lead for us, but well played by them. Next matchup is a Shadow Swampert, once again in the lead. We've seen this Pokemon quite a few times today. It's not a great lead matchup for us, but Blastoise has been able to put in work on the safe swap, so we'll see what our opponent wants to do with this Pokemon. In comes the first charge move. Sludge is going to do about half of our HP, but Blastoise is able to survive that, go for a Hydro Cannon. They catch on Corviknight. I mean, that's a fine catch and all, but I would have thrown this into this Pokemon anyway, so I'm not too disappointed to see this. It's also kind of nice to see this here, because I know that our Tinkaton wouldn't really want to face off against this Pokemon either. Honestly, I guess Swampert's a better matchup for Tinkaton than this Corviknight would be, because at least I have neutral damage against them. Corviknight just hard walls me, so very happy to see that here. In comes another charge move by this Corviknight. I feel like they do have to go for a Sky Attack. An Iron Head would not knock us out from that range. They agree with me. They go for that full-on Sky Attack there, and now another Hydro Cannon is reached by my Blastoise. They likely let this go, just sacrificing Corviknight, getting that shield advantage, and maybe they try to go for a Mud Shot down with that Shadow Swampert. If that is the case, this could be a little bit uncomfortable for us right now. They do come back in Swampert, and it looks like these Mud Shots are doing quite a bit of damage. I'm not sure that I can get to another charge move before they're going to be able to farm us all the way down. So I'm going to swap out into our Shadow Drifloon, likely have to shield this move, which if I do, it depends on the final Pokemon to see how much play we're going to have. They have their own Shadow Drifloon once again in the backline. We saw that how this matchup played out, though. If I can get a debuff into them, I might force energy from them, or I might get a Simul KO, even though I threw a charge move giving him an extra Astonish Sneak. We're able to force them into throwing a charge move here, which means now this game should be in our favor. I can go for a farm down with our Tinkaton, land a Play Rough into that Shadow Swampert, and if I need to, I can catch a move on our Blastoise here to make sure a Shadow Ball does not one-shot us. Fairy Wind doing a massive amount of damage. Not quite enough to knock him out here, but I can attempt to catch, or at the very least, roll out down this Pokemon with our Blastoise. We don't quite reach a Hydro Cannon here, but that's fine. We're still going to be able to survive a Hydro Cannon from the Swampert. We know they're on Sludge. There's no way they're going to be on Sludge or Earthquake here, right? I guess I shouldn't jinx myself. Yeah, no, it's a Hydro Cannon, thankfully. We're able to survive, go for the Play Rough, and while we did not get knocked out by their move, our move should be more than enough to knock out the Shadow Swampert. Tinkaton able to close out that game. GG to our opponent. Next match is Tinkaton in the lead up against a Shadow Fortress. Well, that kind of sucks. Our full team is weak to this Pokemon. I do have Bulldoze, which I guess is neutral damage against this, but honestly, if they have Earthquake here, which most Fortress are going to be running, this is looking very bad for us. They can also go for Rock Tomb baits, which is even worse, meaning that if I do end up calling these moves wrong, not only will they draw my shields, but they'll get debuffs on us. This is just so bad. There it is, the Rock Tomb bait, of course, meaning now our attack is going to be lowered. We did get a first debuff with that Bulldoze, so I guess that means we're kind of just doing neutral damage to them right now. We had a second debuff on them too, which is nice, but they're going to probably go for another Rock Tomb, but I can't risk it at this point. I need to get something out of this matchup. I'm going to shield. Our opponent, though, unfortunately goes for another Rock Tomb. I swap out to Drifloon. They swap at the same exact time. I wanted to at least get one Astonish into that Fortress before they swapped out to put him into a fast move farm down range. This is looking so bad. They come in Spirit Tomb. They can likely farm us all the way down right now, and because of that, this is looking like a loss for us right now. They have so much energy. I know we have to come in with our Tinkaton. They're at the very least debuffed here, which is good for us, but our opponent is still going to have a lot of damage with Shadow Ball. Maybe they debuff us with Rock Tomb. Maybe Maybe they go for an ominous wind. What the heck is that about? Okay. Well, we're still able to survive that move. They're close to another one, though. Maybe I should have gone for a play rough. I'm not so sure this is enough to knock them out, but I know I can survive this next charge move from this Spiritomb. Ominous Wind, not quite enough to knock us out here. And in comes that Fortress once again. Well, this is not looking great. If they shield this move up, they can probably get a attack off into our Blastoise. They do shield. They're going to be able to permanently debuff our Blastoise basically in this game. But we did get the defense drop once again. Tinkaton trying its very best in this matchup. There is a small chance I can roll out this all the way down and maybe use our charge move pressure against the backline. Of course, they get to another charge move here. What's it going to be? If it's going to be another Rock Tomb, we're in a lot of trouble. It's okay. I guess that's why they've been going for Rock Tomb against us the whole game. They're on Mirror Shot as well. I'm thinking right now, though, there's a chance it's a double Sucker Punch team. I think it might be Bombardier in the backline. Triple Rock Tomb, double Sucker Punch. That is exactly what it is. Hold on. We might actually have a little bit of play. We have a Hydro Cannon ready to go. Our Tinkaton is still in the backline to clear our debuff, so we can swap out here, get a Fairy Wind or two off, and we don't give him enough energy for a charge move, whereas we have a Hydro Cannon ready to go. Blastoise, it can come back in, potentially knock out this Bombardier, and out of nowhere, apparently, we're able to win that game. A full Blastoise sweep to close out the night. I love to see that. GG to our opponent. I can't believe we won a game against a Shadow Fortress with this team. Yeah, this team is pretty fun to use. I think the worst thing about it is there are a lot of Pokemon that can kind of hard wall Drifblim right now, but there's also a lot of Pokemon weak to it. There's the Furrets out there, the Shadow Drapions, the Spiritombs apparently, that you really don't want to see, but so many Mudslappers, so many fighters as well in the meta. It has a lot of play, and I feel like pairing it up with Tinkaton was a very good idea. Alright, well, thank you so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed the battles and you want to see more content like this on the channel, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It helps out the channel a ton, and I would really appreciate it. Thank you again for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.